This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
All right, welcome into the Farm Monitor Studios. Ray DeLesio manning the fort this week while Kenny B takes care of some Farm Bureau business. And while he is doing that, we have got our own items to take care of. Case in point, the current cotton harvest. It's been a frustrating and interesting couple of months for producers, so a lot of questions right now on what kind of an impact it'll have on the final harvest numbers. Also on the program, really nice story out of Gwinnett County. It's about Peachtree Farm and their mission to grow locally grown produce while at the same time providing job opportunities for individuals with disabilities. Great stuff. And then later, don't get into a staring contest with this guy. He's a bad goat, but not just any goat. His breed is special and the fiber they provide very, very unique. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor. Well, as we wind down the year, cotton producers are winding down this season's harvest. And as John Holcomb reports, both their patience and fortitude have been tested every step of the way.
It's been a year that many cotton producers here in the state won't soon forget. A year of ups and downs, twists and turns, and unprecedented economic issues. However, to no one's surprise, producers have pressed on and are now wrapping up this year's harvest. That, according to Camp Hand, Extension Cotton Specialist with the University of Georgia, is one of the few parts of the year that's gone well for producers.
Harvest season overall has been really good. It's been a lot of weather like what we're standing in right now. Beautiful skies, the sun's out, the wind's blowing. It's been extremely good, extremely conducive for getting the crop out. We had two scares with Nicole and Ian. Of course, we thought that we were going to lose a little bit more than we actually did. But with that being said, I think there were some impacts of those two storms. I think a lot of people got started earlier because Ian was supposed to come early. And so people got started early, got their crop out, or started getting their crop out a little bit earlier. The gin started running a little early. So it was good. And overall, the crop was early anyway. So it just kind of sped things up a little bit.
However, according to Wes Shannon, a producer in Tift County, getting the crop to harvest was a different story.
The 2022 growing season probably had the good, the bad, the ugly. If it was something you could experience in a growing season, it almost seems like we have, except snow. We hadn't had that yet. But we had a hot, dry time trying to get planted. We had seed that were planted in dry ground that finally got a rain and came up, and we had some skippy stands. It's been tough. Then we got some rain later on. Some folks had some boll rot if they had too much rain on some older cotton. And then we got to September, and we went probably 45 days without enough rain to even hit the bottom of the rain gauge, and that has challenged things too.
And to add insult to injury, Shannon says that he and producers alike also had to deal with the effects of inflation on their inputs and even had to worry about shortages of chemicals.
It's definitely been a challenging year from a management prospect or situation. When we think about fuel, we bought some early fuel for maybe $3, and then within a few weeks it was $5. Luckily I had most of the tanks filled. And didn't buy a whole lot at that expense. It came back down some. We got some more on in the summer, probably in the $4 range. Every time we turned around, there was some talk of this chemical might not be available and might be a shortage on it. So when we got a chance, we bought some stuff, and whether we used it all up or not, kind of made sure we had enough to get by and some things like that.
Despite the challenging year for producers, Hand says that overall, the season wasn't a loss, as the quality has been fantastic.
The quality's been incredible. Color grades like we hadn't seen in a long time, a lot of 11s and 21s, which is just really unheard of around here. We're used to getting 41s, and I imagine from here on we'll be seeing some of that, but quality of the crop's been good, the yield has been good. Overall, I think it's been a really good year. We just need the price to climb back up, is what we really need right now.
Reporting in Tifton for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
All right, John, thanks so much. And we have got more cotton talk on the way. Garrett Hurley of Chattooga County discusses some of the major weather events that took place and how they affected his cotton. That's coming up in about 15 minutes. Peachtree Farm in Gwinnett County. It's where adults with disabilities live, work, and thrive while producing locally grown produce for Metro Atlanta. Jennifer Parson has their heartwarming story.
Beef,
Cabbage.
and kale.
22-year-old Joseph Newton, originally from Nicaragua, was adopted at age 4 after his mother met him during a mission trip. He now resides in Roswell with his family and has been working at Peachtree Farm for over a year.
These are peas.
Here at the farm, it's a training ground with a big purpose.
To be a farmer is an identity. And what's lacking in so many folks' lives is the ability to form a community and form an identity that provides meaning and structure to their lives.
They started just over a year and a half ago, and in that time have built this 3,000 square foot hydroponic greenhouse, established 16 raised beds, created this chicken coop,
You want to hold one?
and are preparing to raise bees in these bee boxes next summer.
It's the greenhouse. We have the brain of the operation, controls all of our environmental controls, and we have the heart of the system that does all of our pumping, mixing our hydroponic nutrients from those barrels into here and sends it out to the greenhouse. In here we have our seedlings.
Once their seedlings start to show leaves, they'll transport them into these boxes. With heaters in place, they plan to grow through the winter season. The goal, 720 plants and hopefully around 15,000 pounds of tomatoes.
We have a few local restaurants who have expressed interest in purchasing wholesale our tomatoes.
They have collards they're growing, different kind of beans, and of course, they're chickens.
Today, I helped clean the chicken coop.
19-year-old Sophia Larrier helps set up the pots in the greenhouse in preparation for the tomato plants and enjoys learning how to raise chickens.
Took some time for me to figure out how to pick them up.
After conquering her fear,
If you hold them like this, they won't fly. I'm beginning to get the gist of being a farmer. It's really not very hard once you know how.
and the chickens seem to like her company.
Chickens, please. Yep, wow, but that's all part of a chicken's life.
They work with the local high school's exceptional education programs, instilling confidence, job coaching, and on-the-spot ag education.
There's 3 questions that folks with disabilities and their families ask, and it's what are they going to do with their life, who's going to take care of them, and where are they going to live. We're trying to take an approach that can answer all 3 of those questions by having a place for folks to work, having a space for folks to live in a beautiful and supportive environment that can really make people's lives meaningful.
Joe Twiner, executive director of Peachtree Farm, is dedicated to the work. His sister has special needs, and he says his family wants to be able to provide job opportunities for her once she graduates high school.
We want to be able to provide folks the skills that they can take elsewhere.
With plans for more beds and an additional greenhouse, the future is bright for this farm.
We want to build a supported and independent living community for 45 folks with disabilities to live at.
He says they have community support and local businesses donate their time and services to help build Peachtree Farm because they believe in its mission.
Like everything on the farm, it's a community effort.
In Peachtree Corners, I'm Jennifer Parson reporting for the Farm Monitor.
Hi, Jennifer, great job. Looks like someone needs a haircut, but the hair on these goats isn't just any hair. That's next when the Farm Monitor continues.
Congratulations to Pam Knox, the 2022 D.W. Brooks Faculty Award winner for Excellence in Extension. Pam Knox, an agricultural climatologist with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension, specializes in weather and climate variability impacts on agriculture. Knox is the director of the UGA Weather Network, managing a group of 88 automated weather stations across the state that provide weather and climate data to farmers, utilities, extension agents, and private citizens. The network also helps support the National Weather Service by providing real-time weather information in hazardous weather outbreaks to support public safety initiatives. In the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences Department of Crop and Soil Sciences, Knox provides outreach and education on climate and its effects on crops and livestock in the southeastern United States. In this capacity, she provides weather and climate data and analysis to university scientists and user groups across the region. In addition to her work for the university, Knox is state coordinator for the Volunteer Community Cooperative Rain, Hail, and Snow Rainfall Network in Georgia. She serves on the advisory board for the Georgia Weather Network and is an active certified consulting meteorologist in the areas of forensic meteorology and climatology, a past assistant state climatologist for Georgia, and former Wisconsin state climatologist for the University of Wisconsin Extension. She now serves on the technical advisory boards for the Southeast Regional Climate Center and the Southeast Regional Climate Hub. Knox received the Walter Barnard Hill Award in Public Service and Outreach in 2021 and is a co-author for the upcoming National Climate Assessment chapter on the Southeast.
If they didn't know any better, at first glance one might mistake these mild-mannered creatures for your everyday average sheep. An easy mistake to make, but in fact, these are a very coveted breed of goat.
They're Angora goats, and they produce mohair, and they are originally from Turkey. They wouldn't let them out of that country for hundreds of years, and they finally made it out. And they finally made it down to Texas, and there's a lot of Angora goats in Texas, and they're the only goat that grows mohair. All other goats have some amount of cashmere. So if you want mohair, you have to have Angora goats. And they're just cute. The horns are handy. And they are so much like sheep, though. They are not usually the fence jumpers, and they're pretty docile. They like people. And they're very friendly.
Tina Evans owns and operates Dry Creek Naturals in Taylorsville, one of only a handful of farms in Georgia that raise Angora goats. You heard her mention mohair. Well, believe it or not, mohair is actually talked about in the Bible during the time of Moses. It's both durable and resilient, easy to dye, and crease resistant. But arguably, the most impressive feature of mohair, it's fireproof.
The advantage of my mohair is I got into the natural colored goats early on. My white goats started producing colored mohair, and I didn't want to dye fibers. I just wanted to be naturally colored. Most of my customers do like all the dyed colors, but I love the natural colors, and it's soft, it's silky, it's warm, it's cool. It's just a really good feeling fiber. When you don't feel good, you can just rub on this mohair, and the energy, whatever, it's just a feel-good fiber. The animals are small, they're easy to take care of. There is a lot of care. Mine get a show ration. They need a lot of protein. They need a lot of good roughage. And they get pasture. They need shorn every 6 months. And their hooves grow fast because that mohair is growing fast, so they need a lot of foot trimming. Parasites are an issue down here in the south because we are wet and we have a lot of grass. And you have to stay on top of that. It's just like any fiber growing animal. There's work involved, but the finished product is way worth it.
As anyone who raises fiber animals will tell you, keeping predators away from their livelihood is a constant battle. Tina, however, is the exception. In the 40 years she's been doing this, she has never lost a single animal. Not one. Yes, she admits to having some close calls from time to time, but with guard dogs like this on the property, she sleeps a little easier at night knowing they've got it covered.
I have 4 Marimas right now. They're an Italian dog. They're very good dogs. They don't roam. They've not been in the country long, and they've not been spoiled. They've not been ruined. They're not as big of pets as Pyrenees and some of the other dogs, and they love their animals and they love staying with them, and they won't leave this property. Mohair's it's the only mohair. It's no other way to get it. And a lot of wool looks like mohair. It's curly, but it does not feel. Mohair has the handle of silk. It also has a lot of luster, and there's no other fiber like it.
I tell you what, those dogs certainly earned their keep that day. They did not let me out of their sights. Well, up next, break out the tissues. It's the story of how an entire town came together for the ultimate harvest to honor a fellow farmer who suddenly passed away.
My name's Garrett Hurley, here back in the south end of Chattooga County. We last met in July. We've had several weather events that's really changed things around for us. We started out Labor Day weekend with a historic flood. Some have called it a 500-year flood. We had approximately 14 inches of rain within about a 12-hour window. Then come into October, we were looking at a short crop anyway from the flood, and then we had a mighty early frost and freeze. So kind of going through the timeline of the Labor Day flood, we started out on Saturday evening. Everything was looking great. We went to bed expecting approximately a half-inch rain. We woke up Sunday morning. The rain gauges were already running over. It continued to rain to mid-afternoon. We had some cotton that was probably, I would say it probably had 8 foot of water over it, maybe 10. So immediately after it crested, it started coming down. By Tuesday, the majority of it didn't have any water on it over the top of it anymore. And we were actually kind of excited, I guess to put it, if you could be excited in that time, that the water had started receding. We were kind of expecting that it had went down so quick that we could still pull a decent crop out of those areas that were flooded. What we think happened is that there was a ton of erosion that was caused by the flood. So in turn, the floodwaters was really silty, and that silt and debris just stuck to the leaves of our cotton. So we come in first week of October. We're looking at the forecast, checking it, looking for those freezing temps in the 10-day forecast. So we fly in and start defoliating and throwing the bowl opener on. We get all of our defoliating out in what we thought would be plenty of time, and we wake up the morning that it's supposed to be 35, and we wake up to it, they've dropped it, and we wake up to 28. So whenever it gets to 28 and bowls are not open, that means one thing, and that means that they're soured. And that's what you can see behind me is a lot of damage from the frost and the freeze, and not necessarily the frost. The frost really just hit the leaves. We were able to get by and get the leaves knocked off, but the freeze is what really caused our damage. And we had some immature bolls that I believe were caused by the flood. It slowed the maturity down of this cotton on some of the late fruit that was on it. And once it did that, these bolls just didn't have time to open up. Some takeaways from this year are we're looking into the 2023 crop. Our main goal is to have our crop planted a little bit earlier. We've kind of been chasing a trend of trying to stay out of frost in the spring, and return that's been pushing us a little later than what we really need to be to get this crop finished out. And we're kind of looking at that earlier planting date and trying to adjust our nitrogen rates to maybe help with some of this growthy crop that we've dealt with this year and kind of combat some of the boll rot that we're seeing in it. I don't think there's a whole lot that you can do whenever you have that kind of rain event in September, but I do think that it's something from a management standpoint that we can work on. From the farmer here standing in his field, talking to a consumer, maybe a couple thousand miles away, I hope whenever that consumer either lays down in his bed in their cotton sheets or puts on their cotton clothes to go to work, I hope that they can appreciate what goes into a cotton crop to get that crop out and get that fiber to the mill and have it spun into yarn.
Finally this week, as we all know, rural America is painted with kind-hearted, generous individuals who show resilience in times of need. Recently, that was on full display after the sudden loss of a farmer, father, husband, and friend. As the Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan reports, he was an able leader whose selfless service made him a staple to everyone who knew him and whose loss put an entire community in motion.
Paul Baker was a man of faith.
My mom and my sister and I spent 5 days with him in the hospital, and he shared with us he'd only missed Mass twice. He missed Mass that Sunday. He made us go.
A devout Catholic, his faith flourished, even on days his health was slowly fading away.
He's just a tough old farmer. So I truly believe he waited as long as he possibly could because he's so tough.
It all started last December. What the family thought was long haulers from COVID just wouldn't go away.
He finally got over part of it, but it just never was a full recovery.
What they didn't know until just 5 days before Paul passed, it was something much more severe.
I think the diagnosis came through on a Tuesday, and he passed away that Thursday.
A man who had never smoked a day in his life had lymphoma that had turned into lung cancer.
And I know he didn't want to be in the hospital, and this is why we think it was so quick. We think he just waited till he couldn't.
Looking back, his daughters say they now see signs that their dad knew his health would be tested this year.
He didn't buy cattle this year. There were just some things he seemed to kind of know, and he would never want to burden us with any of that.
A man who always put others before himself was a sudden and deep loss, not only for the family, but the entire community of Creston, Iowa.
There's other people in the community knew something was going on. I had a neighbor show up, said, I'm going to run some of your beans. Thank God he did. I got to spend Wednesday out the hospital.
With corn still left in the field, the community didn't skip a beat, orchestrating a beautiful final harvest for a man who lived a life of integrity.
It was a great effort from the community. We had people from 20 miles away. Paul is very respected. There's a lot of people who came.
A week after Paul passed, nearly 25 combines and 38 trucks came together for this, a harvest of 600 acres in only 4 hours.
Everything works like clockwork. There were captains, and there's like 5 teams, and so it was quite organized.
It was very overwhelming. Our family is eternally grateful for what you did, and Dad, he's just up there shaking his head that whole day. We thought, just in disbelief, because he was a very humble person as well.
I would like to say thank you. And people have come up to me after this has been all over and said, were you surprised? And I said, no. The kids were little. We would go somewhere when we come home. He would say, I'm taking you to the best place on earth. And we would get all excited like Disney World or something. And we would drive back into the driveway and he said, here we are. And it's true. I just want to thank everyone for everything they did.
Paul Baker's memory will live on through acts of kindness throughout Creston, Iowa, a community that truly cares, showing so with the ultimate harvest of thanks.
Well, if that doesn't make you choke up, I don't know what will. Special thanks to our friends at the Farm Journal for sending us that. And unfortunately, that will end things for this week's show. For Kenny, myself, everyone here at the Farm Monitor, thanks for spending time with us. Stay safe. Have a great week.